I understand what getting blown out of bed means now.
Oh my God. Oh my God, another explosion. I just looked in the distance and this big orange ball of fire, and I'm just going to move out of the way because we're back. Earlier we were at Central Park near the ball fields, and we've returned here, so it's a closer look at the fire. And as you can see, Dana was so right about those winds. It has really picked up. They're very breezy, cool, obviously from the north. And what we've noticed is that while the fire, when it first happened, was almost 3 times the height of where it is now, still it has continued to spread, and now this black smoke is just billowing out, and it apparently has gotten worse.
We're in a neighborhood right now called Hebert Woods, which is about a half-mile from that plant, and we want to give you a look at some of the damage. I'll let Kevin kind of walk in and give you a close-up, but this is just one of many houses. We've seen dozens of garage doors damaged, front doors blown off their hinges, windows blown out. We drove by an apartment complex, and a lot of these neighborhoods had been evacuated, and so a lot of empty houses here, but we did come to this house, and Sherry and Justin Brown, they're going to tell us a little bit about what woke them up this morning. I mean, did you guys think it was a storm? I mean, what were you thinking when you heard that sound?
Well, we were in bed asleep, and we heard this loud boom that went off, and we came out, and we saw our front door that had been blown completely off the hinges, and I came outside, and we saw that one of these refineries out here had, was on fire, so we knew that one of the refineries had blown up out here. So,
I mean, you can still see the blaze going on right now. And talk about, you were walking around the house trying to assess damage, and you're still finding things. Here we are several hours later.
Yeah, crooked pictures on the wall, stuff. I found a birdhouse. It was actually in the bathtub. It was like the whole house was shaking, kind of like a little mini earthquake.
Have you guys ever experienced anything like this before?
And I've never, no.
So I'm going to walk behind you. I'm going to have you kind of point out a few things. I know you noticed the windows on your daughter's room.
yes.
Mm-hmm. It's all concaved in.
So we're going to take you over here to get a look at some of these windows. And it's not just you guys. I mean, I'm looking at your neighbors. We've got some bent garage doors. I've seen some vehicles damaged.
Yes, windows have been blown out of our neighbors' houses. Some of the front of the houses and back of the houses have been damaged as well. So everybody out here has taken some kind of damage out here because of it.
It's just it's an uneasy feeling when you're awoken like that and you think a bomb just went off and you run to see where the noise came from, and it's horrific when you realize what force took the front door and put it in your living room. It took a while to wrap that around your mind. And then I got news from my son. He was working in a plant next door. He got knocked down, was able to get to his truck and get home. So, we're thankful we're all safe. We have a lot to be thankful for this Thanksgiving.
Check this out. Look at the damage that explosion caused. Like, the doors are fine, but when you go in, look at the ceiling of the market basket here in Port Neches. This is the Port Neches market basket. It won't be open for at least a couple of hours because the folks have to make sure all of this is secure. This is the impact, the damage caused by that explosion here to Market Basket.
And I just wanted to show you this front door. Talk to the homeowner here. This is actually his mother's home. Luckily, she was not home at the time. They just came over to kind of check things out and assess damage. But if you're wondering where the other piece of that door is, it broke it clear off. This is right here where the doorknob is. And you can see on the door frame where the nails were pulled out. And we did talk to the homeowner in here, and there's glass in the kitchen. The garage doors were actually sucked in to the garage. And again, this is just one of dozens of neighborhoods. There are quite a few people out boarding up homes, putting up tarps.
You can see behind me, this is where the explosion initially took place. I'm standing in somebody's backyard, and there is debris all over this yard. So this is the first time I've actually been able to see, particles from the plant that have flown this far away and landed in people's yards. And there is an extensive amount of damage to this home. And every single window that I've seen on this house is blown out. Doors, the same thing. And I actually want to turn here and show you real quick. We're going to speak to the tenant here about what he experienced. But if you see on the top of the door and window right there, the brick is actually broken. So you can tell the amount of impact that hit this home around 1 o'clock this morning. And sir, I understand you were here. You experienced this for yourself. If you could tell us, I mean, being this close to the plant, what was it like for you?
I mean, it literally sounded like an 18-wheeler just came straight through the house. I woke up, the window in my room actually, the whole entire frame just broke off, fell on me. And next thing you know, my wife started screaming like crazy. And I was like, went outside, went in here, saw the glass, saw the big orange glow. And I told her, we got to get the heck out of here. We pretty much just grabbed our dog, my mother-in-law, and we took off.
It looks like there was a tornado in here. And then the
whole entire frame pretty much just fell and landed on me, so I pushed it out of the way and stepped on all the glass. So
oh wow,
like I said, I didn't know what was going on. I just grabbed my wife and said, let's go.
Oh my
But
gosh.
yeah, I was surprised. I thought I was going to be a lot more cut up than what I was.
It's incredible. You can see the damage from the outside, but when you walk inside a home, that's when you see how much cleanup is going to be involved.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a long Thanksgiving, but a memorable one, that's for sure.
But what I really want to show you, you were mentioning on the weather cam, seeing that smoke as it gets light out. But from our perspective down here, you can actually see how fast it's moving. And again, we've noticed the winds picking up in the last hour from when we first got out here. And I think this shot right here gives you a little bit better sense of how quickly that smoke is moving across the area.
The plant right behind me, you can see the huge cloud of black smoke that is still hours later billowing out of the plant. And it's thick, it's still rolling. We see those huge massive flames there at the bottom that are coming out of the plant. You can see how fast that smoke is rolling, and I can give you another look at it right now. You can see how fast it's moving from the top of the plant and across the sky in this direction.
But I was sleeping right here, and when it happened, it blew these blinds out enough where I seen the big fireball.
Lane Dewey is just one of thousands assessing damage after an explosion Wednesday morning at the TPC plant in Port Neches, just a half-mile from the place he's called home for decades.
This, my 3-year-old granddaughter was sleeping in here, and well, it knocked that little cover off that air conditioner, and some of the pictures that had up on the thing, it knocked them all off.
Dewey says his wife grabbed the grandkids and left immediately while he stayed behind to board up shattered windows and doors. He, like many, also facing possible structural damage after the blast caused his ceilings to crack, exposing sheetrock.
Most damage is here in the garage. The force of the explosion come up through the eaves and into the attic and forced all this tile down and knocked a lot of stuff off the shelves.
Less than a mile down the road, families in the Drawhorn Estates neighborhood are also processing what happened.
I jumped out of bed, actually. It scared me pretty bad. I thought a bomb had went off at our front door.
Sherry Brown and her husband Justin ran out of their bedroom to find their front door lying in their living room.
The door, it's a pretty heavy door, and the glass is busted out of it. The door frame itself is splintered. It hit the wall, so we have wall damage as well.
They grabbed their young daughter, evacuated their neighborhood, and returned around 3 in the morning to do a walkthrough and check the damage.
Pictures not straight, birdhouses thrown in the bathtub, and things out of place just in every room pretty much.
And a look outside when the sun came up revealed just about every home in their neighborhood had at least several broken windows, damaged garage doors, vehicles, and more. It's a sight, an experience they hope no one ever has to experience.
I'm from Port Neches. This has never happened out here before.
A flash in the sky, and then the boom.
There it is. That's what it is.
Cameras across the Port Neches area capture the light and sound of an explosion.
I think a plant just blew up. It woke me up.
And that got the attention of the people. With cameras readily available and everywhere, the event was captured from every direction and every angle. From outside,
well, no, because it broke the whole door frame.
To inside.
So we're going to have to figure out a way to get the door frame back up.
A shocking blast that scared man and beast.
Polyethylene. Some bad there.
Oh man, it's getting carried across the river.
That sent many out into the community to capture what happened.
It's that plant. It's on fire.
And
yeah, it was bad.
To spread the news.
It was loud from my house, and I'm like 10 blocks down.
Tom Wright, KFDM 6 News.
Seeing this huge ball of flames with a massive cloud of black smoke in your backyard is scary enough, let alone being woken up by what people describe as the loudest bang they've ever heard.
After the initial explosion, I'd lay on this side and this window completely blew out, hit me on the side, and I threw it back. As soon as I jumped up, I slipped on all the glass down here.
Will Bray lives off of East Port Neches Avenue. His backyard is one of the closest things to TPC. You can see how much debris ended up in his yard. But Bray says the broken glass inside and shrapnel outside are nothing compared to the reaction from his wife at 1 o'clock this morning.
I didn't know what was worse, the explosion or that blood-curdling scream she let out, and I was like, man, just hearing that alone just sent chills through my body, like, man, something's about to happen. I got to get her out of here.
This morning, about 9 hours after the explosion, we heard from TPC's Director of Health, Safety, and Security. He said at that time they were working the fire defensively, letting the chemical burn until crews could get closer.
We have taken, at the moment, as best a defensive position as we possibly can in order to try to get everything initiated as cooling, isolate as much as we possibly can so that we're not continuing to feed the source of the fire, and then develop a strategy by which we can actually take emergency responders into that hot zone and actually begin to make more local isolations and eventually snuff the fire out.
Once the fire is out, TPC says that's when they can start looking into the cause, and debris in your yard might end up being part of that investigation.
We certainly do not want our folks, our public in harm's way, so our best advice is to leave that stuff alone, call the hotline that we've established, and then we'll make arrangements to come out and evaluate it and get it cleaned up.
As for Bray, he's still in shock and trying to get that moment out of his head.
That's all I've been hearing constantly for hours now. It's tough. I mean, looking at all the damage and everything, that's where you keep thinking now. It's how did we make it out without a scratch on us? I mean, we're definitely blessed.
In Port Neches, Kelsey, KFDM 6 News.
You can follow it over Nederland, right across Port Neches, and it seems to parallel the highway 365 and then goes right over the top of Parkdale Mall, and you can see the direction of the flags. And look at this, as far as you can see, that's how far the plume stretches.
Right at this intersection is where law enforcement has set up a roadblock where people can't go through, and heading that direction is heading towards Groves. And just, we want you to see this smoke, because before it was overhead, now it is much lower. Just about 10 minutes ago, that smoke was just over the highway, as if it was on the highway. Really scary situation, and I can tell you this is a serious situation that is developing here in Port Neches and the surrounding area. People are starting to leave, and that's good. They need to heed the evacuation. And I heard one of the police officers guarding this barricade telling one of the citizens, they were asking why the mandatory, and he told that citizen that they are expecting possibly another explosion, and that is concerning. As soon as we heard that, of course, we want people to stay calm, but we definitely, they're telling us, law enforcement are telling us that we need to be going shortly. But I just want to assess the situation. If you are listening to this, heed those words of a mandatory evacuation. Check this out. Yes, the Natchez Federal Credit Union, it is completely, it broke in the window. In fact, you could just walk in right now, and this is just pretty amazing damage. And there is damage like this throughout Port Neches. And I think, Dan, you had some video of the library that also sustained some damage.
Yeah.
Right now we are at Port Neches Groves High School, which is on Merriman and not far at all from the explosion. And just to show you how close, look at the impact. This is the basketball gym here. And look, it basically blew in this door here to the gym. This is a pretty strong door into the basketball gym, but just check it out. The impact, which the explosion came from over here, as far as the impact came this way, and it pushed in this door, which this part of the high school, it's off of Merriman, but it faces to where the explosion took place. And while we were here, we actually bumped into or came across Dr. Mike Gonzalez, who is the superintendent of PNGISD. And first, Mike, thank you. I know it's late overnight morning, but just your thoughts at seeing this alone.
Well, this is unbelievable. We currently have our maintenance department looking over our schools. The high school and the middle school are in close proximity of the blast, and so we're making sure that our schools are okay, and we're hoping that they'll be ready to go for our students when we get back to school next week.
Basically blew the door in, and right behind, and so they pretty much secured it as best as they can with these waste baskets. You know, the store remains open. I think around the corner, a lot of workers are. You remain open, right?
Yes.
Well, were you here when it happened?
No.
Where were you?
I was at home.
You were at home. Wow. Well, how do you live here in Port Neches?
I live in Groves.
Did you feel the explosion?
You could feel the explosion at the house. I mean, like, it just shook it. I thought it was lightning. I didn't know it was an explosion at the refinery.
And then you come here, you work here.
Yeah, and one of my customers called me and told me what happened.
And are y'all open 24 hours?
No, sir.
So, well, now y'all are.
Yeah, now I'm open to help everybody out, you know.
Yeah, because there's a lot of, I was telling Dan, there's so many people, it's like, it's daytime around here. Everybody's awake.
Yes.
Yeah, we live in Lloyd's Trailer Park, and our whole trailer started shaking.
Oh, my goodness.
Freaked me out.
We're going to give you a peek inside here. I'll let Kevin go in front of me so you guys can see.
We've got the news crew coming in.
Obviously, a lot of activity. Can you kind of tell me, when you woke up this morning, what you saw? What the first thing you did?
Well, the first thing I thought was my house just blew up. I opened the door of my bedroom, and my daughter was coming out of the other bedroom, so I could see out that window, and I saw what was going on over there. And the first thing was get out of here.
Absolutely.
You know, and got them out of here. Within about 5 minutes, they were gone. And I was probably about 10 minutes behind them.
And now that the sun's come up, you're getting a better look at the damage. What all have you assessed so far? I mean, obviously the glass and the windows.
Yeah, obviously you can see that. I haven't been in the attic. I know upstairs in my bedroom there's insulation. There's stuff all over the place upstairs, probably coming from the stairway going into the attic. So I hadn't looked at that yet to see what's going on there. Talked to my neighbor. He's got issues with his garage door, which is on the back of the house. I know there's neighbors that live in the other building further down that the roofs in their garages collapsed on the cars.
And you were pointing out earlier, I just want to show our viewers the wall here.
Yeah. Inside, yeah. That's not an outside wall for sure.
I just can't just emphasize enough this plume of smoke is actually incredible. We were closer to the fire, but now we're at a distance, and as you can see, this plume of smoke is just crossing Port Neches, going over Port Neches Elementary and over Magnolia Avenue, which is this stretch of 366 in Port Neches. So just so bizarre, just a gloomy morning.
Just a few minutes ago, we were in Hebert Woods. We showed you the damage of one home. A family took us inside. We've moved a little bit, about a half mile down. We're at Avenue D and Main Street now, and you can see the plant from here. We're just down the street from that. We wanted to give you an update on how things look there. Still seeing some flames. The neighborhoods, though, we're in those neighborhoods where a lot of the families have chosen to evacuate just as a precaution. The family we spoke with over in Hebert Woods a few minutes ago, they had a front door blown off the hinges, windows blown out, car damage, garage door damage, and it was harder to me, Dan, to find a home that didn't have some kind of impact in all of these neighborhoods.
What they're letting through right now is people who are leaving, and we are seeing a lot of traffic. But before I show you the traffic, let me just get out of the way so you can just see the smoke. I mean, this plume of smoke it's developed early in the morning, right as we noticed it when the sun came out. The sad thing about the situation is that the folks that have been displaced tonight, they have no idea when they will be allowed to return home. Judge Jeff Brannick says they have no idea when that will be controlled, the situation with the explosion, and when it will be safe, especially within that 4-mile radius, to return back to that section. Because the big concern is with that second explosion, we saw one of the towers that was just basically shoot out like a projectile. So when Judge Jeff Brannick saw that video, he had engineers come in and design a plan as to how another explosion would do with debris or with one of those towers. And he found out that around that 4-mile radius, that could cause potential damage not only to homes, but if it hits like a plant like Huntsman, which is nearby, a chain reaction that could definitely even be more of a disaster.
Over the past 30 minutes to an hour, it's really evolved. It's kind of moved spots at the plant that we can see, and we've even heard several booms, crashes, pops. I'm not going to say there were any more explosions, but we have heard some sounds coming from the plant, and you can see that fire is still rolling very strong this morning, and it even kind of changes. It'll go for 30 seconds or a minute where it will be brighter and more intense and lighting up the sky, and then it'll die down just a little bit, and we'll hear some rumbling or cracking, or almost sounds like something might be collapsing over there. But we've just kind of seen it evolve here over the past 30 minutes to an hour.
I sat down and I heard an explosion that I had never heard for in my life. In fact, I thought that it was at my apartment complex and that the complex was going to collapse. That's how severe it was. At that apartment complex, 30 windows were shattered. Mine were not, which shows you how unusual this was, that side-by-side addresses. One was touched, the other was not. And then I was getting video of the plume of smoke this afternoon to show my brother, to send a video to him in Houston, and that actually I captured that second explosion. So it's been a pretty shocking day for me personally and for everyone here in Port Neches. And right now I just want to show you, this is probably the busiest intersection. We're at the intersection of Port Neches Avenue and Magnolia. Now Magnolia is that stretch of 366 that goes through the city of Port Neches, and it's named Magnolia, but it is Highway 366. And as you can, this has been a steady flow of traffic to the Shell station, and that's basically because it's on the way out of Port Neches. So this has stayed busy with people gassing up, getting snacks, because it does appear that so far, from what we can tell from the traffic we've seen exiting the city, it does appear that most folks are adhering to Judge Jeff Brannick's evacuation order.
This is the remnants of the fire, but what you can't see, I don't think really on this, is the amount of dark smoke that's just rolling out of this, and that is the concern now. We have heard Jefferson County Judge Jeff Brannick say that he is concerned about the city of Groves, which is immediately south. Marie Fisher says, our home is on Merriman facing the library. All the front windows and the doors are blown out. Garage door won't open. We ran out the back towards the middle school, got a ride from a fireman who just happened to be checking on his family. We do not know the full extent of damage to our home. And I got a feeling that's going to be the case for a lot of folks this morning.
You can see on our live weather network of cameras from Do Good Credit Union with Crown Electric sponsoring this particular camera, the vastness of the coverage from the plume being produced by the explosion. The plant, it's really one of the smaller plants at this location, but a very powerful one.
And I want to give you a look inside of a garage. We're going to give you a tour of this house real quick with the homeowner. This is the garage. Elaine Dewey, the homeowner here. Elaine, tell us when you woke up, what you saw, what you heard.
Well, the explosion woke me up initially, and we were all sleeping, and all the windows blew out in the back of the house, and we saw the fireball. And I've got two grandchildren here, so I had to worry about their safety first and get them up and out of here. And then, I made my way here and saw some of the damage that it caused throughout the house.
And I'm looking here in the garage. I see the cabinets have been completely opened. There's debris on the floor.
Yeah, it seems as far as the eye goes, the garage took the worst hit. Yeah, my wife's had this Christmas tree for over 20 years, and it was blown over. She got a lot of old ornaments that got broke. You can see the pile. She swept up a bit this morning. And then...
yeah, show us the ceiling damage over here. This window here in the kitchen was blown out, and the ceiling is cracked?
Yeah, it cracked all this sheetrock here, and the window here is all broke, blown out. Which all the windows on the back of the house are blown out. Knocked all the pictures off the walls in just about every room.
And show us this bedroom. Who sleep? You had children sleeping in here with you earlier, didn't you?
Yes, my 3-year-old granddaughter sleeps in here, and it woke her up also. When I first got up, I came in here to get her up and out and brought her in the front in the living room, but it had some damage in here too. This window blew out, and the force blew the blinds up enough when I was laying down. I could see the fireball outside, and initially I thought it was a pipeline blew up there, but it later realized it was TPC, and I immediately got up.
So this is a view right now, Dan, of what we're seeing.
I heard another explosion about 4:45, and then about 5:15 I heard a couple of small booms back there, and when the wind shifted earlier this morning, it all started blowing it back towards Port Arthur.
Yeah.
And earlier the smoke wasn't as black when it first happened, but since 5 or so, when those 2 other explosions happened, it's really gotten black smoke more.
When you shelter in place, it doesn't necessarily mean just life is normal.
Right.
Make sure that those windows are shut, and make sure that ventilation doesn't bring some of that particular matter in the event that it is.
Well, you're trying. The point is to minimize the effect. Right. You may not be able to eliminate, but you can minimize or reduce exposure and or risk. And the way that you do that is, like you said, by keeping your house as airtight as you possibly can.
And your position too, keep in mind where you're located as far as where the plant is too, because that also is going to be coming into play.
Any word of any injuries at all in the community that you know of?
Not officially. I have had a couple of people tell me that they were hit with some broken glass as they were in their beds, of course, and stuff. And the glass shattered. It blew in there, so you may have some superficial cuts or something that may not get reported officially. But other than that, and we can confirm with the TPC officials that they had 3 injuries at their facility that they're treating. But they're so very fortunate that it wasn't worse than that.